Hello everybody, my name's Shenanigans, and this is going to be the post-run commentary over my Pokemon Yellow No Save Corruption world record. So to start it off, a bit of history about the category. For the longest time, this category existed as Pokemon Yellow single segment glitched, which meant you just simply play through the game with no saves at all. And as long as you didn't reload to any saves, your run would be accepted or whatever. And the category was pretty brutal due to the fact that the stable missing node toward the end of the run is only a 1 in 8 chance of appearing, and if that doesn't appear, you're pretty much like your run's destroyed basically. So we decided to make the category into Pokemon Yellow No Save Corruption, which allows saves, and it simply meant that you weren't allowed to use the save corruption glitch in order to complete the run. And that allowed a lot more people to sort of get involved in the category, and we actually did a few SRL races of the category, which were a lot of fun, and a lot of people joined those. So the start of the run is pretty similar to glitchless. You just simply play through the beginning of the game. Nothing too major here. And when I was doing these runs, I was trying to get extremely good early games because most of the time save from this category is from the encounter luck that you have in Route 1, and Mount Moon and Verdian Forest, so it was pretty important to have pretty solid encounter luck in those three areas. And in this run, I had a very good Route 1 in Verdian Forest and a fairly average Mount Moon, so it added up to saving me a lot of time. Nicknamed the Pikachu to save a little bit of time. Now this rival fate can go a lot of different ways, and your Pikachu stats actually matter quite a bit. Based on your Pikachu stats, you can do different things on the Diglett fight. The best case scenario is that you have 10 defense. 10 defense allows you to beat the Diglett fight using only one potion, and it should take 8 turns, which is pretty close to the fastest way possible. This fight itself, if you land a critical hit, which I do right here, you save 1 turn, which is pretty nice. Getting that paralyzed wasted a little bit of time though, but saving that turn's really nice. If you win the rival fight, it costs you a little bit of time, but it makes the fight in the Verdian Forest a little bit harder because you'll be a lower level. And as you saw there, I had 10 defense, so I knew that this was a good Pikachu. If you win the rival fight, you get enough experience from the Eevee, the Caterpie that you have to fight in Verdian Forest, and the wild Pokemon that you have to fight in order to level up your Gengar to level 100, that your Pikachu will hit level 7, which wastes a little bit of time. But having the Pikachu at level 6 saves 1 turn and a lot of heartache on the fight in Verdian Forest. So no encounters on the way up, which is really solid. I was resetting if I got 2 encounters on that route when I was doing runs, which is a pretty small amount with 2 encounters, but I was going for really good early game time so that I could accept worse luck later on. And my early game was pretty ridiculous this run. By the way, no encounters on the way down too. If you have a level 6 Pikachu, meaning you won the rival fight, you can do a sort of safer strategy that doesn't really waste much time. If you kill a wild Pidgey, level 2 or 3, you'll hit level 7 after the Caterpie fight, which doesn't waste any time because you would hit the level 7 anyway. It only wastes the time of like killing the encounter, and that will allow you to have higher defense and higher hit points for the Diglett fight, which can be useful depending on your defense. Typically if I have 9 defense, I try to go for that. With 10 defense, it doesn't matter too much because you already have enough defense to do the safer strategy. So I didn't really need to kill a Pidgey, but I didn't see one anyway. But it can be useful if you're just trying to complete runs. You can simply fight the Pidgey and have an easier rival fight. Anyway, back to Route 1. And I believe I get 0 encounters total on Route 1. Typically I fight the encounter if I get one here in order to get the extra level, because it really does help on the Diglett fight. And sometimes you can nearly avoid using the potion entirely, which is really helpful. So yeah, no encounters there is pretty good. So in yellow version, the catching tutorial here is forced, so you can't just walk past this guy. You have to actually go through the tutorial, which wastes a little bit of time, but it's nothing too major. Compared to red no save corruption, that is. The differences between the two categories of red no save corruption and yellow no save corruption is pretty small. In red no save corruption, there's no trainer with maximum range in Viridian Forest. The first trainer that has maximum range in the entire game is in Mount Moon. So if you were to do, if you were to try and do a trainer fly glitch, you would have to wait until Mount Moon, unless you went for a encounter in front of a trainer version of trainer fly, which you can do in Viridian Forest, but due to the encounter rate, there's a very low chance of success. So most people don't run the category with that in mind. However, it is possible to get trainer fly off of the last trainer in Viridian Forest in red version. You just need to get an encounter in front of him and die to the encounter. But as far as other differences in the categories go, in red version, you can skip Brock due to a glitch where you can save in front of the person who walks you over to the gym and then reset your game. And that allows you to skip fighting Brock. However, in yellow version, that glitch was removed, so fighting Brock is mandatory. So in order to do this category, we do need to have a level 100 Pokemon before Brock, because otherwise we'd have to grind up a weaker Pokemon and possibly eventually switch to a stronger Pokemon, maybe in Mount Moon. But luckily there is a trainer with maximum range introduced in the yellow version, so we can use the trainer fly glitch. The other main difference is in Pokemon Yellow version, they attempted to patch the missingnos, and through patching the missingnos, they made it very difficult in order to duplicate items, which for the item underflow glitch at the end of the game, we need to duplicate a set of items twice, and because of the difficulty with finding a stable missingno, you kind of have to go through some extra steps in Yellow version. The only stable missingnos are the Kabutops fossil, the Ghost missingno, and the Aerodactyl fossil. Those are the only 3 stable missingnos, and they correspond with hex values of 182, 183, and 184. So in order to get one of them to appear, you need to do a trainer fly glitch, and the last Pokemon you need to see would be a Pokemon with a special value of 182, 183, or 184. And the only way to have that occur early on in the game is by making a wild Starmie appear, and you need to get lucky with its DVs to be 11 or 12, because a level 80 Starmie with 11 or 12 DV special will have either 182 or 184 special, which means that it would correspond with one of the 2 stable missingnos. So that's where we get the 1 in 8 chance of the stable missingno appearing, is because the Starmie has 2 out of its 16 possible DVs that would work. And that is a yellow no save corruption exclusive issue. In red version, almost all missingnos are stable, so you can simply find any missingno, which is much easier than in yellow no save corruption, because in red basically the only major RNG killer after the early game is catching Abra. But yellow does have easier desum. Anyway, that trainer there, we use the trainer fly glitch off of. He's a max range trainer, and he was introduced in the yellow version. That trainer does not exist in red, which is really convenient for us because we do need to beat Brock in this version, and Pikachu does not necessarily have an easy matchup against an Onix and a Geodude, so it's very helpful that that exists. Anyway, we're on to the Diglett fight here. So this Diglett happens to have 14 special, which corresponds with Gengar on the hex chart. And I'm also using Growl here to lower his attack stage to 1. The reason I'm doing this is with the trainer fly glitch, the Pokemon that appears when you return to the area you exited, which as you saw I used that escape rope in the forest. When I return there, a wild Pokemon is going to appear, and it's going to be based off of two things. Its level is going to be based off the attack stage of the Pokemon, which is why I'm using Growl. All Pokemon start with an attack stage of 7 when in battle, and if I use Growl 6 times, I'll lower its attack stage to 1. I luckily lived there from that critical. But the other thing that matters is the special of the Pokemon. So since it has a value of 14 on the Diglett special, and Gengar's value is 14, a Gengar will appear, and since I use 6 Growls to lower its attack stage to level 1, a level 1 Gengar will appear, and this is very important. I also had to pause the game there, because if you don't pause the game, when you enter the forest, you'll fight a trainer rather than a wild Gengar. So that's necessary for the glitch. Anyway, we use Thundershock here to weaken it, and simply start throwing Pokeballs. He has an 18% chance to get in per ball, and I actually catch him first ball here, which is the perfect luck. In my previous run, I had a lot of bad luck early game, and I also died to the Diglett trainer and had to go back and refight him. So, big time save here compared to my first run. And that's a majority of where I can save my time. I can save about 2 minutes in the later game, but majority of my time could be saved there. So it's really nice having a huge lead at the beginning of the run. Anyway, we need to use the experience underflow glitch here. The Gengar that I caught has a massive amount of experience because level 1 Pokemon are not supposed to exist. And if you give them a very small amount of experience, less than 54 experience, it will add that small amount of experience to the extremely large amount of experience they have and jump them straight to level 100. However, if you give them too much experience, you'll actually overflow their experience and they'll jump to level 2, which is a problem because obviously you would rather have a level 100 than a level 2 for the speedrun. Luckily, every single Pokemon in that grass gives a low enough amount of experience that I won't overflow it. So now we have a level 100 Gengar, and it's time to fight Brock. Of course, the rest of the game with a level 100 Gengar is pretty straightforward. You just simply destroy everything with one attack, and really face no opposition for the rest of the run. Some problems come from if you Gen 1 miss, which every attack in Gen 1 has a 1 out of 256 chance to miss. If that happens at a bad time, you can lose a lot of time. I've had a few runs that have died to that. I've Gen 1 missed on Pidgeys and gotten hit by Sand Attack. I've Gen 1 missed on the Dig Rockets Drowsy, and it's used Hypnosis and put me to sleep for multiple turns. You can lose a lot of time to missing in stupid places. Luckily, I don't believe I missed at all here, so very good luck. Another major part of this run is Nightshade versus Lick management. The move Lick, because it's Ghost type, cannot hit normal or Psychic type Pokemon. In Generation 1, Ghost cannot hit Psychic types due to an oversight in the programming. So, unfortunately, you kind of have to manage your nightshades because you only have 15, and in some sections you go a very long time without ever healing in the Pokemon Center, namely Nugget Bridge to all the way to the end of the game without healing. So you only have 19 or 15 nightshades for that entire section. So you have to play out which Pokemon you're going to Nightshade and which Pokemon you're going to Lick. Also, Lick is generally faster to use because it has less letters in its name. However, has a, I believe, 21% chance to critical, and if it criticals, it's slower than Nightshade. But on the average case, Lick is better to use. However, if your cursor is over Nightshade, it's faster to just use Nightshade again rather than doing the inputs to switch your move. So you kind of have to play out which move you're using based off of the previous move you used. So for example, this Rattata is normal type, so I can only use Nightshade to attack it. And even though his next Pokemon, Ekans, is Poison type, I'm going to use Nightshade again because it's faster to use Nightshade than to switch to Lick. These are kind of the small optimizations that I didn't do in my previous run that save a decent amount of time through every split. We fight this girl here. Even though she blocks your path, we fight her because she has 2 Pokemon instead of 4, so it actually saves a few seconds to fight her, walk all the way back to Pewter City, and then walk all the way back here, just to avoid the other fighter who has 2 extra Pokemon. I don't believe I did this in my PB as well. I'm not exactly sure. So anyway, we're going to turn around here. Whenever you're walking through Pikachu, you want to make sure you hold down the B button. Pikachu is an overworld object, but for some reason when you hold down the B button, you don't bonk into him when you try to walk through him. Well, if you don't hold down the B button, you bonk into Pikachu. It saves a few frames every time you walk through him. Anyway, final fight here before Mount Moon. Mount Moon is the last section in the run where you can really lose time. Mount Moon and Abra are really the last 2 sections in the run where your time can variate. Basically, the encounters are 10 seconds each, and for every encounter you get, you lose 10 seconds. You can get encounters in that grass, but luckily I didn't get any. So we're gonna go into the mart here. We need to deposit Pikachu at some point before we get to Bill. And we also need to have 3 Pokemon total for the run. So we're going to buy the Magikarp. We need 3 Pokemon for the reason that at the end of the game, when we get to the stable missingno, the stable missingno will copy the stats, or the base stats, and the moves of the last Pokemon that was loaded. So when we reach the missingno, if we don't catch any Pokemon, we're going to have a Gengar and an Abra as our 2 Pokemon. And we need to use 2 X specials during that fight in order to lower our item count. And the reason that comes into play is we need to catch that missingno, and we need to burn 2 turns on it. And if we were to let it copy our Gengar, it would be very difficult to catch, and it could possibly paralyze us, which would lose some time potentially in the later section. Plus it would have the move Lick, which has a lot of text to it because it's super effective and all of that. So we don't want to have it copy the Gengar. And if we had it copy the Abra, we would have to deal with it having the potential to teleport away, which would be a major problem because it has a 1 in 8 chance of appearing. We don't want it to teleport away on us before we can catch it. So that's another major problem. So we need to catch a 3rd Pokemon, and the fastest Pokemon to catch is actually just simply buying the Magikarp. We could get the Charmander, but the Charmander has a similar problem to the Gengar, as it can It has a hard catch rate, so when I say catch rate, I mean all Pokemon have a value assigned to how easy or difficult they are to capture. Gengar's catch rate is 45, whereas Magikarp's is 255. The higher the value, the easier the Pokemon is to catch. So, for example, a Gengar at full health is 5.9% to catch per Pokeball, whereas a Magikarp at full health is 33% to catch. So we want the missingno to copy a very high value, and the Magikarp is just good in every way. Magikarp's only move is Splash, which is a very quick move to use, and it doesn't deal damage or anything, so it's also very nice that we give it the move Splash to use. Just a lot of good benefits with Magikarp. So anyway, pretty average Mount Moon so far. I would say 8 encounters is about the average. My PB, I believe, had 10. I lost time on entering Mount Moon because the Pokemon that I defeated to Underflow was a level 3 Rattata, which takes 2 turns to fight. My PB had a Pidgey, which takes 1 turn to fight. So I lost a little bit of time to that. But overall, really average Mount Moon. 8 encounters to the nerd again is average, so I'm very happy with that. As long as I can keep the average scenario up until the missingno, the run's typically pretty good. So again, every critical hit just wastes those frames. Everything's gonna die to the Gengar, so getting a critical wastes a little bit of time. But kind of when you're going through this run toward this later game, you kind of just have to think of the small optimizations. You aren't really going to be saving much time after Mount Moon until the Abra section. This is another difference to Yellow, is the introduction of Team Rockets. These aren't in Red No Save Corruption. They're just an extra trainer. You skip out of one fight, and then you have to fight these guys instead. But there's really not much difference between Red No Save Corruption and Yellow No Save Corruption outside of the whole stable missingno thing. So again, simply Nightshade the normal types. And we're finally going to be exiting Mount Moon here. So pretty much whatever time I'm ahead at Mount Moon, I'm going to be hopefully carrying with me till the end of the game. Abra can waste time, and not getting the stable missingno wastes about 1.5 minutes every time you have to reset. But we're going to take a quick detour here, and we're going to pick up this Great Ball. That Great Ball is to catch the Abra. Pokeballs have a 29% chance to catch the Abra, and the Great Ball has a 55% chance to catch the Abra, so it's worth it to go those few steps out of the way to pick up the Great Ball, as opposed to just throwing Pokeballs and hoping that you catch it. Anyway, we're going to enter Cerulean here. I go straight to the mart, it doesn't matter where you go first. Now here I'm only going to buy 2 repels. You need 2 repels for the section after Vermilion, and typically I would buy 6 Pokeballs because I have the money for them. However, since I caught my Gengar in the first ball, I still have 8 Pokeballs left. So since I have 8 Pokeballs remaining, I have a pretty decent chance to make it through the rest of the run with just those. On average, it should take me 3 on the Magikarp, and I shouldn't have to use any on the Abra in the average case. So I should have enough Pokeballs. I also heal at the Pokemon Center there, because I need to set my warp point to Cerulean, so that when I use Teleport later, I go here instead of back to Pewter City, which was the last place that I healed. I also don't have enough Nightshades to make it through Nugget Bridge, so I do have to heal for the Nightshades. I have 15 Nightshades going into Nugget Bridge, and throughout the rest of the game, there are 12 normal or psychic type Pokemon. Actually, there's 11 normal or psychic type Pokemon. So I can use 3 of my Nightshades on, or 4 of my Nightshades rather, on Pokemon that are not normal or psychic type. I typically only use 11 Nightshades on the normal types, and I keep my 4 other Nightshades for like as long as I can, just so that if I Gen 1 miss or something bad happens, I have that extra Nightshade, and it really helps on some sections. I've had runs that I've Gen 1 missed on the final fight on Nugget Bridge, and because I've used all of my Nightshades, I've had to pick up the Ether, which wastes about 10 seconds, where using the Nightshades more sparingly would only waste frames. It is very unlikely to Gen 1 miss though. With all the Nightshades, it's pretty close to like a 15 out of 256 chance, so it's very unlikely to happen, but if it does, you lose a ton of time. Anyway, we're just gonna go through Nugget Bridge. Everything here also dies in 1 hit. So, nothing really to talk about for this section. It's just really straightforward. Fight the trainers and just use whatever move hits them. The other Pokemon that you can have for this section is you can have a Nidoking. Nidoking is in theory faster, but he's a lot less secure, I would say. It's very unlikely to be able to get a Nidoking. What you would do instead is, after you escape rope out of the forest at the beginning of the game, and when I went to fight the trainer in the gym, instead of doing that, you would walk and try and exit Pewter City, and the guy would walk you to the gym. And from there, you would get a wild encounter south of Pewter, and it would need to be a level 3 Pidgey, a level 4 Rattata, or a level 3 Rattata. All of them have varying chances to give you a Nidoking. You would growl that 6 times and then enter the forest, and if you got lucky it would be a Nidoking, level 1, and you could catch it. But the reason Gengar is so much better is because Pikachu's only attacking move is Thunder Shock. You can damage the Gengar because Gengar's Ghost type, but Nidoking is Ground Poison, which means it has an immunity to electric, so you kind of just have to throw balls, which means instead of a nearly 20% chance to capture, you have a 5% to capture. So in theory, Nidoking takes 4 balls more. There's a 1 in 20 chance of catching it versus a 1 in 5. So it should take 4 times more likely in theory. However, if you get extremely lucky, Nidoking can be faster. It also has the move Thrash, which is pretty quick, except Nidoking's cry length is really long, so all of the wild encounters in Mount Moon you lose about half a second on, compared to Gengar. So it can be faster, but it can also be slower, based off your luck. But yeah, Gengar just kind of tears through everything. So in Red No Save Corruption, you would simply catch your Abra here. The grass to my left is actually where Abra is in Red No Save Corruption. Has a 15% chance to appear there. So you would catch it here. Whereas in Pokemon Yellow, you have to wait until after Bill, and you walk south of Cerulean. North of Vermilion, rather, is where Abra is in this game. And one of the major reasons that Abra is a lot easier in Pokemon Yellow to capture is because of the way D-Sum is handled. D-Sum is a term we use when we talk about, like, kind of manipulating your encounters. So for this game, for example, in Pokemon Yellow, all the encounter slots are kind of listed on the table, and they kind of have like values assigned to them. So on the route with Abra, Abra is the third most common slot. So that means it has a 15% chance of appearing. So what that actually means is that 15% of the values are assigned to Abra. And the way that the game handles the encounter is in a simple way. The amount of time between the encounter you got and the time you get your next encounter, based off that amount of time, you can actually know what encounter you're going to get. And based off certain Pokemon, you want to wait certain amounts of time. So, for example, if I were to find, let's say, a level 15 Pidgey, I know that I would want to wait 5 seconds after I ran away before I started looking for my Abra. Because if I were to get an encounter within those first 5 seconds, it would be most likely to be a level 15 Pidgey or a level 14 Rattata. But after those 5 seconds, it would be more likely to be an Abra. And then, of course, if I don't get an encounter, I would wait a certain amount of time, and so on. But DSum's an extremely good tool to use during no save corruption, because you do need to catch an Abra. And the fact that it's 15% is normally pretty bad, but it's very easy to manipulate in Yellow version. The Abragrass is one of the best locations to desum in all of Pokemon, because it's such a good slot, combined with the fact that it's like a really good slot. There's really good grass rate. It's 15 encounter rate, I believe, in the grass, which is pretty close to the best number, and the desum ticks slower in Yellow. So anyway, we're done with the Nugget Bridge section here. Just have to finish off this trainer. And as you can see, I have 6 Nightshades at this point. You need to have 3 when you leave this section. If you have 3 Nightshades, you can use 1 on the Drowsy, that's on the Dig Rocket coming up. You can use then 2 on the Clefairy trainer at the very end of the game, the very last trainer in the game. The Clefairy trainer saves a very small amount of time compared to the other trainer you can fight. There's 2 trainers in that area that you can fight. So we fight the Clefairy trainer, but you do need to have 2 Nightshades in order to fight her, because Clefairy is obviously normal type. So anyway, just getting the SSN ticket from Bill, and then we walk back to Cerulean, and then on to Vermilion. So coming up here is again the Abra section. Abra is definitely a run killer. I've lost many runs to Abra. If he doesn't get in the Great Ball, you can do a backup strat where you just throw Pokeballs, but they have a much lower chance of catching. So most people save before they try and capture Abra, and if you don't catch him, simply reload the save and you'll have your Great Ball back. However, that wastes too much time, so I don't really go with that strategy. I simply just try and catch Abra. If I don't get it with the Great Ball, I attempt to desum it, and I try and catch it with a Pokeball. If you're just trying to complete runs, though, you would just save. Not a big deal. So anyway, this guy is really easy. And then we go to the Abra section. So in the underground coming up here, we're going to pick up an X special. The reason we pick up the X special is when we get to the missingno, we need to have an item that we can use in battle. So an X special is obviously a very good item that we can use in battle. Because when you do the missingno glitch, The way it works is the game adds 128 to the item in your 6th item slot. So our final goal is to have an item with exactly 255 in its stack. And if we take 1 and we add 128, we get to 129. And to get to 255, we need 127 before we add the 128. So we have to remove 2 of the item. So we can simply use 2x specials, and then when we do the second duplication, we'll add 128 and we'll hit our 255. Anyway, it's time to catch the abra. I hesitated a bit there because my hand slipped off my controller. But we got first encounter abra, so that's perfect luck. So now all we need to do is catch him. First encounter abra saves a ton of time. So anyway, chuck our great ball, and unfortunately he breaks out and teleports away. So now I need to desum off of the failed capture abra. So I'm going to wait roughly 5 seconds, then look for an encounter for 3 seconds. And luckily I get an encounter that time, so it's another abra. And we need to throw Pokeballs at it because we don't have our Great Ball anymore. So these have a roughly 29% chance to capture. And unfortunately it got away again. So we're going to wait another 6 seconds this time. The reason for that is we spent less time in battle than when we used the Great Ball, because the Great Ball was farther down in my inventory. So you have to account for that kind of stuff when you're desumming. So anyway, throw our last Pokeball, and this time we get lucky and we capture our abra. So we're going to lose some time here obviously because we spent a lot of time looking for abra. Typically you catch it your 2nd encounter. That time I caught it my 3rd. We need to switch Magikarp to our 3rd position because, as I said earlier, we got the Magikarp so that we can have it be the last Pokemon loaded when we go to the missingno. And we're also setting up a Trainer Fly glitch, so we do quite a bit in that section. We're going to change our boxes here because it saves the game when you change your boxes, and we need to be able to save so that we can reload the game. This is actually the only save and reload in the entire run. So as you can see, no save corruption only saves a very small amount of time in Pokemon Yellow version. Compared to the single segment glitch that we used to run. It saves roughly 10 seconds, I believe, because the only difference would be you would fight a trainer rather than save and quit there. Anyway, we're going to go north of Cerulean here because there's another trainer that we can activate the Trainer Fly glitch off of. And he is right here. I need my repels on the top slot, and we're duplicating the X specials, so I need to put them into slot 6. Which, as you can see, I messed up that menu there. That was one of my biggest mistakes in the run. I accidentally swapped my my TM28 with my X specials. You also want to get your item count as low as possible, so I tossed an item there. Pretty much every time I'm in the menu, I try to toss an item when I can. The reason for this is we need to get to 0 items at the end of the run, and just by getting rid of items whenever possible, I can reach 0 items faster. So when we fight this girl instead of the first trainer, even though she's farther out of the way, because she only has 1 Pokemon. The other guy has a Horsey and a Shelter, so you have to fight through 2. So she saves a little bit of time. So now we have 2 Trainer Fly glitches set up. We have 1 Trainer Fly north of Vermilion and 1 Trainer Fly north of Cerulean. And we're going to be doing the glitch here where we attempt to get a stable missingno. And the way this works is we're going to talk to a trade trainer here. The Pokemon he trades is a Nidoran, and its name is Sammy, I believe. And it's very strange how the game handles it, but the letter Y corresponds with Starmie, and the blank spaces after it correspond with level 80. So by talking to this trainer, the last Pokemon that we're going to see, the game is going to think, because the stored values are going to be rewritten to Sammy again. So the Y will give us a Starmie, and the blank space will give us level 80. So when we walk out of this building here, we're going to find a level 80 Starmie. And the reason that that's so important is the level 80 Starmie, due to its base 100 special, will have a possibility of giving us a stable missingno. It needs to have a DV of 11 or 12 out of its 16 randomly assigned DVs. So 2 out of 16 chance that he gives us the stable missingno. I'm also going to flash my Pokemon there because the last Pokemon loaded was Gengar because I sent it out. But by checking my Pokemon, it loads the lowest Pokemon in my menu, which is Magikarp. So the missingno will have Magikarp's stats. So anyway, we get our encounter here, and first try stable missingno, which is perfect luck. That's again a 12.5% chance. As you can see, those X specials went from 1 to 9, but that's actually 129. We're going to use 2 of them to get to 127, so that when we catch the missingno and it duplicates them again, we get to 255, which is necessary for a later glitch. There's a 33% chance you catch it per ball, and I catch it first ball, so extremely lucky there. The stable missingno is a really long cry, so you have to kind of sit in this for a while. But eventually it turns into a Rhydon. Rhydon is the hex valued 1 Pokemon, so typically when you catch missingnos, they will be transformed into a Rhydon. It's pretty interesting. So anyway, just gonna walk down back toward Vermilion now. So the old route, you would simply fight these 2 trainers and get the bike and all of that, but when I did the reroute, I realized that we could play it more like Red No Save Corruption and kind of treat it as 2 different sections, which saves a decent amount of time. Most of that time save is here, but a little bit of it is in the next split, which was really nice, having guaranteed time save over my previous run. So there's one more glitch that we need to do. We need to set up one more trainer fly here. This is the last point that you can really destroy the run. So walk in front of this guy and do the trainer fly glitch one last time. And the reason we do this is when you do the trainer fly glitch and you haven't fought any other trainers, when you return to the route that you set up the trainer fly glitch, you deactivate all the trainers on the route. So normally there would be 2 trainers that you're forced to battle when you go into Vermilion. However, since we've deactivated the trainers, we don't have to fight them, which saves the time that it would normally take. So it's obviously faster to just walk all the way back down as opposed to fighting 2 entire trainers. So it's really nice. So the last glitch that we're going to be doing here is the item underflow glitch, and the way that that works is if you have 0 items and you get an item removed from your inventory, you would be at -1 items, and because the Pokemon games use unsigned integers, -1 corresponds with 255, which would be a massive amount of items. So our objective is to get to those massive amount of items, because if you have more than 20 items, the game needs to fill those spaces in your inventory. And the way that it fills those spaces in your inventory is it kind of fills them with like pieces of data, and you can manipulate parts of the code via your item pouch, which is really nice because we can actually manipulate the value that says like where a door is going to take you, and we can change that value to say the end of the game. which allows us to skip all the badges, all of Victory Road, all of the Elite Four, and just go straight to the credits, which is what we're going to do. The sprites get messed up because I just captured a missingno, which is something you're not supposed to do. So the sprites get kind of funky here. We're also going to be deloading the Snorlax. The first item in the game that we can have removed from our inventory without getting another item back is a freshwater from the guards in Saffron. So our goal is to get a freshwater as fast as possible. I'm also going to swap those X specials to slot 2 and use one of my repels. I didn't have access to my inventory until I fought that trainer because that's a side effect of the trainer fly glitch. Luckily I got no encounters on my way over to him, but now since I have my repel up I can't get encounters. And we're going to return to that route where I last set up trainer fly. And we're going to get a Mr. Mime here. And that's just because the last trainer, or the last trainer we fought, his Pokemon corresponded with Mr. Mime. So notice when I use that repel, the X specials duplicated over the slot above it. That's very important. That's the reason we can activate item underflow. I'll talk more about that here in a moment. But for now, we simply walk back here, and the Snorlax is going to be gone. I'm not exactly sure why this works, but I think it works because it believes that Snorlax is an event Pokemon, and when you do the trainer fly, I think the game handles it as an event, and it thinks that I've done an event, and the most recent route that I was on had the event Pokemon Snorlax, so it kind of thinks, okay, well, the Snorlax needs to go away because there was an event, and there was a Pokemon that appeared, so we kind of need to remove the Snorlax. It may have something to do with overworld objects as well, because I know it doesn't work if you walk past an overworld object. Otherwise this route would be a lot faster because we could do a different strategy. Anyway, more messed up sprites here. But pretty much now that we're at this point and we have our duplicated item, it's just a race to getting that freshwater as fast as possible. So we're just going to destroy this guy, and the last trainer coming up, which has the 2 Clefairies, simply destroy them and move on to Celadon. Because once we're in Celadon, we simply buy the freshwater, do a small glitch, and then get our item underflow. And from there, we can beat the game very quickly. So as you saw earlier when I when I used that last repel, the X specials duplicated over that slot. That is a side effect of the 255 items. Because I have 255 items, when an item above them in your inventory is removed, rather than having that become an empty space, it simply duplicates over the item. But the game thinks that you tossed an item, but as you could see, my inventory didn't change below it. It simply thinks that I lost an item. So if I were to continue tossing items above those X specials, and it continued duplicating over, the game would think I'm going to 0 items, but I'm not actually losing any items in my inventory. And what's really convenient about that is because I'm not having my inventory change, I still have the same items, but I'm able to make the game think that I'm losing items. I can have a freshwater with me and have 0 items at the same time according to the game. And what's so nice about that is because of that specific circumstance, I can have the freshwater be removed and the game will think I have -1 items. And that is how we achieve item underflow. The way you would normally achieve it with save corruption is you simply save the game and turn it off while it's loading a bunch of data, and then do a couple other glitches and the game thinks that you have 255 items. But in this, because we can't use save corruption, we kind of have to do like different methods to it. Also, it's faster to just deposit Pokemon, so that's why I go into the center here. At the end of the game, it shows all of your Pokemon sliding across the screen. It's faster to just get rid of 3 of them rather than watch all 4 go across the screen. I'm taking Magikarp with me just because I don't like to take the Rhydon with me, because I always feel like it's going to have some glitchy effects when I bring it. So I always just deposit it for some reason. It is faster to just take the Rhydon with you though. But anyway, we're in the mart here. Just go to the top floor, buy our fresh water. And it's time to head out. So now all we need to do is toss our items, and we're gonna head over to the guardhouse to get the freshwater removed from our inventory. So right here, I'm just going to toss the items. As you can see, I am tossing them, but nothing's happening to my inventory. What's happening is the cancel button is actually scrolling up. So every time I toss, the cancel button moves up a little higher, and eventually the cancel button is going to move up to the very top, which you'll see right here. So the cancel button just moved to the very top. And because the game thinks that the cancel button's at the top of my items section, even though it's technically not, the game thinks I have 0 items, because if the cancel button is my first slot, how can I have items? So because the game thinks I have no items, and right here, I'm going to have the freshwater taken out of my inventory, I'm now at -1 items, which gives me access beyond the 20 items that you're normally supposed to have access to. So as you can see, I can scroll down past the cancel button, and I have all these glitchy items that correspond with pieces of memory. So right here, I'm going to toss one of these items. This gives me fastest text, so the text scrolls instantly. I'm also going to swap that stack of escape ropes with those master balls. This slot deals with my warp location. So when I exit the door, based off the value in this slot, I'll be taken to certain areas. And we're going to change that value to 128. And that allows us to warp straight to the Hall of Fame and the end of the game. And that's how you beat the game with a level 5 Magikarp. I hope you all enjoyed this run. I know that I had a great time finally finishing this run. It's a very difficult category to finish runs in due to the randomness of the stable missingno. But anyway, thanks for watching. Feel free to follow me over on Twitch at shenanigans_. I'll post that link in the description. And also make sure to check out the Pokemon Speedruns wiki for all your Pokemon speedrunning needs. I will also post that in the description. If you're interested in Pokemon speedruns, that is a great place to go for all kinds of information about different runs and whatnot. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.